If we could all take a seat, please. Thank you. This is a Transportation Subcommittee meeting in response to a City Council motion presentation from Mass Department of Transportation officials, the realignment and reconstruction of the VFW highway at Bridge Street. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Milanazzo.
Here.
Counsel Leahy.
Here.
Counsel Martin. Here. 3 present.
3 present. Also in the audience, we have Councilor Samaras, Councilor Mercier, Councilor Kennedy, and Councilor Rourke, as well as City Manager Murphy. Thank you for being here. We also have some residents from the Centerville Neighborhood Group. Thank you for being here, and we'll certainly open it up for questions or comments after the presentation. If there's no objection from the members of the subcommittee, I'd like to turn it over to Lisa DeMeo, our city engineer, to introduce her panelists. Oh, I did say city. Oh, I'm sorry. The city manager wants to be recognized first. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and councilors. At the request of the City Council, what we've done is we've put this before you this evening as a presentation of what plans there are for the reconfiguration of the intersection of the VFW Highway and Bridge Street. I've asked Lisa DeMeo to prepare a presentation of the before and after concept, and we're very happy to have people from the Mass Department of Transportation here to answer any questions that they may lend help on. But I think it's a great project. I thank the local delegation for securing the funds necessary to do this reconfiguration. I personally think it's going to make a world of difference in that area, and I think the residents of Centerville and all of the city is going to enjoy it. So, Lisa, could you just start with the before and then go into the after?
Okay. Good evening. I want to also introduce Nicholas Bassanato, the traffic engineer that you are all familiar with, but we have Carrie LaValle, the project manager from Mass DOT, and Bruno Campio, the design engineer from Bayside Engineering. So I have some talking points here as part of the presentation, but we intended that it would be free form so that at any point, if you have any questions, any one of us, jump right in and any one of us will answer whatever the questions are.
Okay, thank you.
So the pre-existing condition, everyone is fairly familiar with what that is. The handout that you have tonight, the front page is the pre-existing condition. That's basically the work limits of the project from Mass DOT. And so it shows you the beginning and the end on each of the legs of the project. This intersection every year comes out to be on the state's top 200 list of bad intersections, and we're usually somewhere in the top 20, maybe number 1, maybe number 10, but always in the top 20. So we were very happy that Mass DOT agreed to take this on and update this. I'm not sure how much, we're all familiar with it, so I don't want to spend too much time on the existing condition. The schedule at the moment is there's work, gas company is doing some work out there right now. They're doing their work at night to get their work done ahead of when the project will continue moving along. And there will be some construction beginning in the next month, this month and next month, that there'll be, the contractor is Tropiano, and they will be doing some work beginning, having their equipment on site and getting some stuff done that way. The entire project will be done in a little over a year, so September of 16 is when they plan to have the entire thing done. And the low bid was $2.7 million. So again, thank you, Mass DOT. The sketch that's on the screen right now, the color doesn't show very well, and I apologize for that, but there's also a paper copy of it in the back for anyone behind us. And there are bike lanes that are shown on there, and our funding sources required that we install bike lanes, so those were included in the design. And just as a reminder to everyone that the bike laws are the same as car laws. It's the same road, same rules. Another piece of the important part of the design was the Lakeview connection to this intersection. Having the existing situation with all of those legs coming into the intersection at the same time make it very complicated, which means it's less safe. So by removing Lakeview from the Bridge VFW intersection improves the safety of that. So what the design calls for is to continue straight through the intersection, and instead of having that chute that takes you off to the side, you will continue to the next light and take a right. So it's a much more controlled, slower speed and safer intersection. We had looked at a variety of different ways to handle that, possibly closing off the access to Lakeview completely. That would have taken all of those cars and pushed them either to the Top Donut intersection or to further down Bridge Street, both of which are already congested intersections, and we didn't want to add traffic to those two. We even investigated putting in a new access point along VFW Highway down at the end of Coburn Street, but none of those really were going to work any better than this particular situation, so this was the alternative that was chosen for that. Another thing that's improvement for the new intersection is changing in the way the pedestrian signals are done. Right now, they're called exclusive, and when you push the button, traffic in all 4 directions stops. The new design is going to have concurrent, which means there will be times when the pedestrian will have the right-of-way and a car may be turning right. In this instance, if the number of pedestrians that go through these intersections is a smaller volume of pedestrians, so we think that this is going to work quite well here. Also, the time it takes to cross the entire street is now considered in the length of time in that signal. So you won't get stranded in the middle. You'll be able to make it all the way across during that signal timing. In the design plans, there are 4 phases shown for construction. And the additional sheets in the back, I think I have them here. Do I have? Let's see. In the design plans.
Could we stay on
Yep,
the end result for a minute,
absolutely.
Mr. Chairman? So could I ask a couple? So, so the Lakeview Ave light is going to remain there?
There will be a signal there. One of the differences, the improvements in the new alignment is, right now there are 2 different controllers for the 2 different intersections. They're related in what's called a parent-child relationship, but the new intersection is going to have only 1 controller. So it's not a matter of making sure they match. There's only going to be one of them, and it's going to be controlling both of them. Bruno may have more to add to that.
So oftentimes you come down, it backs up, the traffic at the Bridge Street light backs up past the Lakeview Ave light, so that you can't get out even when you have a green light,
Yes.
right? So you need to favor that, which backs up the other way. So what's the plan in peak periods, who's going to have the full green then? Lakeview Ave?
I think the priority will, go ahead. Go ahead.
The way the signals should operate, this should at least eliminate a good majority of that. 2 things that would be more beneficial to accomplish that is, number one, as Lisa mentioned, is the fact that the fact that one controller will be operating both locations, it operates more as a internal phasing rather than depending on the coordination of the 2 separate controllers that are existing. That will help. And also, the phasing is set up so that, say you're traveling eastbound, once you make it past the Lakeview intersection, the Bridge Street intersection green will have an extended green, so that will have an extended green. As the Lakeview Ave intersection turns yellow, the green will continue. Then once the yellow at Lakeview is terminated, it will go to red, and then Bridge Street will go to yellow. And that will work both eastbound and westbound. The intention is that the area or the short segment between the two intersections, for the most part, should remain free and clear of backups.
So if you make it through one, you'll have time to get through the other.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. And then I see there's 2 left turn only lanes coming from Bridge Street on the north side.
Correct.
What about the other way? There's nothing, right now, as you come out of the downtown, there's a left turn only arrow, I think. Is that going to remain or be abolished?
That'll remain the same. One one lane will be straight and right turn, and the other lane will be dedicated left.
All right. And are the bike lanes, what's shown in green on this?
Those are bike lanes, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. I didn't want to
Great.
take too much, but
Thank you.
before we left this, I wanted to
That's-
understand.
Anytime you get a question, jump in.
All right.
Right.
I guess to follow up on Council Martin, it looks like, and again, I could be just reading the arrows incorrectly, but it looks like you can actually come out of Lakeview Avenue heading back over Bridge Street, or is that not correct? I'm looking at these 3 arrows right here. Again, it could just be designating, go ahead.
Oh,
Nick.
the arrows that are,
Yeah.
the little ones in
Right.
the intersection that
Correct.
almost look like musical bars?
Correct, yeah.
Those are the directions of the signal heads.
Okay, okay.
So that's the direction that yeah.
Right, okay, great, that clears that up, thank you.
The darker arrows that show left, that would be the type of arrow showing the direction of the traffic. But
Okay,
this particular sketch I liked because it seemed to show everything in the as-built condition without having lots of other stuff on it.
Okay.
So that was the purpose, that when they designed this sketch was not for this, but I liked that particular one.
okay, thank you. Council Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Lisa DeMayo. I just want you to stay with me for a minute as we're coming down Bridge Street, and I'm getting into the left lane. Instead of going straight over the Bridge Street Bridge to downtown, I want to take a left and I want to go home to the Belvedere area. The arrow points right away, and you can go that way. Only if you're lucky, 4 cars get by. If someone's sleeping at the wheel, only 2 people can get by. Then you got to wait through the whole process again. Are we ever going to have longer time to take a left to go on the VFW, to go up the ramp to Nesmith Street?
I'm going to let
Do you know
Bruno
where-
answer that one.
Do you understand?
Yes, I understand your question, and as a result of the geometric changes that we're making, we added not only a southbound, an additional southbound left turn lane, so that there's now 2 lanes turning. We also have designated left turn lanes, both eastbound and westbound on VFW Highway, as well as designated left turn lane coming off the bridge. Between that and the new traffic signals, the phasing is going to be such, and by phasing, I'm talking about the way that the traffic signal operations will be, so that none of the left turns will have conflicts. All the left turns will be operating without any through movement conflicts, so that the movement that you just described, it's going to have its own phase.
Oh, good.
It will be a longer one than the existing, and when that terminates, the left turn is going to stop.
As long as the phase is longer than 4 cars, that'll be fine with me. Thank you.
In addition, Counselor, that in the direction you just referred to, there are now 2 lanes turning left.
So what are we, widening Bridge Street in that area? How are we getting the cars to be all, are we coming in from like 2 lanes to all these lanes?
It's going to be widening up as you come to the intersection. It will widen up from the single lane to the 2 lanes as you come towards intersection. And I also want to emphasize that we will analyze the intersection after it's built. So if there's some timing that needs to change, just so everybody understands, it's not set in stone. It is something that the designer, as well as Mass DOT, will work with the city if you need to change some of the phasing. If you find out only 4 cars are getting through and that's not working, Lisa has worked closely with Mass DOT before on redoing the timing. So that's something that we're not going to walk away from it. We'll help you guys out to get it working for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Leahy?
Thank you. I like everything that you're showing right now, with the left turns and the double left turns. Getting to what Councilor Mercy was saying, are these gonna be kind of like, I guess, what they call smart lights? So if you're coming from Drake and the left turn signal light runs out, and only one car goes across the intersection from the other direction, will you get a left-hand turn signal again, or do you have to wait for the whole
Well,
cycle?
once a certain phase is terminated, then you will have to wait your turn again.
Because some
They are,
intersections
they
go
are
faster.
they are what you refer to as smart lights.
Yeah.
And by that, what we're saying is all of the movements and all of the lanes will have detection. In this case, you're going to see video cameras on the mast arms that'll point to each of the approaches, and each lane will have its own detection. And as I said, since all of the dedicated left or right turn lanes operate differently on its own phase, they're going to actuate its own. So it runs through a cycle, and it all depends on who makes that call first, going back to the controller. But it does need to run through a complete cycle. So if you're a left turn lane, again, the way the signals operate, as long as the vehicles approach and they approach continuously, it's going to extend the phase to the maximum time. If there's a long gap between, say, two successive cars, if there's a long gap, could end up terminating the phase. And then it will just recall it again, put in another call, but it will have to run through its cycle.
Okay.
But the signals are going to operate in response to the demand, is the best way that I can put it.
Okay. And my other question is, I had already asked the chief engineer this. I like everything, but what I go through this intersection every day. So coming down from the Hunts Fall Bridge, maybe a year or two ago, it was painted for one lane. And that backs everything back up to the Hunts Fall Bridge. Isn't any way we can make that 2 lanes coming down? Because the whole rotary gets backed up, and then people can't get down from the hospital to the rotary going down Bridge Street. And it seems like late afternoon, more traffic is going right-hand turn up Bridge Street, but it's backed up to the hospital.
You'll have to explain that. When you said the Hunts
so-
Fall Bridge, is that the
That's the rotary.
south?
The
south-
rotary,
Because
Oh,
the lane
to
at
the
the...
east,
yeah.
the rotary to the east?
Yes.
yeah.
From the east to the west,
Okay.
and then they turn right onto, and so you're asking for, sorry. You're saying, is there a way to have 2 lanes turning right?
You know, when you come down by are you familiar with Gilbicky's, the tow station there?
Okay,
Or
maybe.
the Hunts Fall Bridge rotary?
Yep. you
With a
come-
bridge.
Yep,
So if you come down that way in the afternoon,
yes.
that single lane, which is painted a single lane now, it backs everything up to the hospital.
So I think that's beyond the project limits,
It's-
isn't
it is
it?
beyond-
So that's not even a part of this
Yeah, that-
project, that's beyond
It
the.
affects that whole intersection.
The lane at the lane at the bottom of the ramp is one lane wide.
Right.
So the cars coming down the ramp have to merge into one lane, either at the bottom of the ramp or at the top of the ramp, one or the
Right.
other.
But before the state painted it, we used to make 2 lanes. You know, being from Lowell, we make 2 lanes coming down, and the
But
traffic
all you
flowed
could-
much better.
All you gain in that is the length of the ramp.
Yeah, but it
They're already-
alleviates it from backing up around the rotary and over to the hospital.
Right, but there already are 2 lanes on the top of the circle and across the bridge, there already are 2 lanes. That's
Yeah.
why they painted it one lane. It has to merge into one lane at some point.
Yeah.
Either at the top of the ramp or the bottom.
Okay.
Mass DOT chose it to be at the top of the ramp.
All right. but who's here from DOT?
I am, but
Well,
I have
that's it.
nothing.
All
to-
I want to do is make my point that that's
Okay,
a
you-
critical part of this, and it holds everything up, and it's dangerous because we painted it one lane, I think. So
So
I
is it
think should be
dangerous
looked-
or does it cause traffic?
People getting in
both, you
fist
think?
fights, people backing up, it's dangerous to merge, people do the old, I'm gonna
Well,
cut
that's
you off
something
at
that I
the
can bring
last
back
minute.
to the District
Okay.
4 office as to, but as Lisa said, I don't know that intersection that well because we're
Okay.
focused on the project limits.
Sure.
And that's beyond it, but
right.
if that is a concern, that's something that you could, we can mention to the District 4 office. It sounds from what she's saying.
It was the
that
District 4 maintenance.
it
It would
was,
be the
a
final
decision
piece
that
to
they
make
have-
this intersection really work well.
Yeah,
If you
it
could look at that.
sounds like what she's saying, though, is that you're gonna have to merge either at the top or the bottom of the ramp, and it,
Right. And
maybe.
merging at the bottom seemed like it worked better than
You
merging.
think that worked? Yeah, and that's something that we can come back and tell
Okay,
District 4 maintenance to
Okay.
look into.
all right,
That's
and
not a
then I
problem.
think it would make everything
Yep.
beautiful. Okay, thank you.
It's a very, very good point, Council Leahy. Any of my other colleagues want? Council Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think somebody said the project would start, construction will start next month in September? Is that when?
They're going to start bringing their equipment onto site, getting some prep work done. The heavy construction will start in the spring.
And so when will it be completed? How long will it be until completion? And what is it going to be like while construction is ongoing? I mean, that's a bad intersection without any construction. So what, during that time, what is the duration of that time and how bad is it going to be while that construction's going on?
The while it's going on, construction is the next thing I was going to talk about, so that's a good question. The contract is scheduled to be done September of 2016. So basically a year,
1 year?
1 year.
Okay. And so, well, you're going to answer the other part
Yep.
yourself later on. And so, can we just go back to the pedestrians for a moment? I don't go through every day, but I go through from time to time, but it seems to me that there is quite a bit of pedestrian traffic from the downtown to Centerville. I mean, maybe there's just people crossing the street when I happen to be there, but and I don't know what the count is for the pedestrians. I'm assuming that somebody did a count like that, but it seems to be a little bit more than maybe what you would expect, just because Centerville is a pretty densely populated area, and I just think a lot of people choose to walk rather than to ride. And so, did you look at other alternatives of how that, are you confident, and why are you confident that the pedestrian traffic and the vehicular traffic is all going to work together?
I'm assuming you're referring to the difference between the exclusive phase versus the concurrent phase. And initially, the design did show an exclusive phase. After we held our public hearing and we got comments from both the city and residents, the request was to switch over to the concurrent phase. We did take both traffic counts, pedestrian counts, and I believe even bicycle counts were included in the design. And it was decided that this is a feasible option. By making an exclusive phase, the concern was the amount of delay that it would add to the intersection, and it wouldn't necessarily improve the situation that's there now. But concurrent phasing is very common, and it's something that's used very often. We put up signage saying, the yield to pedestrian signs. I'm sure you've seen them. It's a very common way to get people through. With the length of these crosswalks, it would add a lot of time onto the actual signal cycle, which is something everyone seems to be concerned about if we added the exclusive phase.
Okay, and I'll wait for the answer to the other question, but just let me ask this. What is the time for a complete cycle at that intersection? How long will it take for there to be a complete cycle?
I don't know if we have a
It's
functional
in the
design
plans.
report that we can forward.
Especially in this particular case, I don't remember the exact number. It's probably about 90 seconds.
For a complete cycle?
Yes.
Okay.
And it would be even longer if the exclusive pedestrian signals were included, it would be even longer.
Okay.
And Nicholas is looking it up on the plans.
Okay.
We'll have it in a minute.
Okay.
Oh, he's got it's a little set of plans, it's hard to read. All right, another question? Okay.
Yes, Councilor Samaras?
No, so,
Thank you. Now, Councilor Kennedy brings up a good point regarding pedestrians. I would say the largest group of students walking to the high school do come from the Centerville Christian Hill area. It's just close, very close to the high school. Have you considered the high school students morning and afternoon? Because at that particular point, there are a large number of students that do cross that intersection.
Well, I believe that the traffic counts were taken during that time. The traffic counts were taken between 7 in the morning and 6 in the evening, so they were counted all the way through. So as far as being considered in the traffic counts, yes, they were.
Okay, I mean, if you can just make sure, because if you're going to change, some of the configurations, you know how students are. I mean, they will go at the lights as long as, there's reasonable chance for them to get across, but I think that has to be, you have to make sure that that's considered. I'm not saying that you haven't, but I just...
Again, they were considered, and also the signal timing has been adjusted so that there's sufficient time for, if they follow the directions, which is to walk when it says walk, and then once it says do not walk, then they have plenty of time to get to all the way across the roadway.
No, I mean, these plans really look terrific. I mean, I think we have a chance to make a significant difference. I mean, I came from that area. I mean, going through the Bridge Street intersection it's the one major nightmare in the city. I mean, it just doesn't work. But also, with Councilor Leahy's question regarding coming from the Hunts Fall Bridge to Bridge Street and making the right turn, I mean, I think that has to be looked at a little closer, because that is also, causes a major tie-up coming from Route 38. So, I mean, I think they have to be connected together. Just another review of that, and if any adaptations can be made regarding that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Samaras. Can we just touch upon the smart signal again, and the fact that this street obviously going into a densely populated neighborhood with emergency vehicles, be them fire trucks or ambulances, going to the Lowell General Saints Center. When an ambulance, for example, goes through and the signals all stop, when they start up again, does it start where it stopped, or does it start at the beginning of the cycle again?
Are you asking after the emergency
Correct.
vehicle preemption?
Yes.
The main line will typically come back.
The main line will typically
Yes.
come back. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions from my colleagues? Councilor Belanger joined us. Thank you. Again, at this point, we can continue with the presentation.
All right, I'll go into the phasing that Council Kennedy had asked about. As part of the design plans, the design engineer provides suggested phasing, and the contractor can use this phasing, or he can come up with his own. At this point, we don't know whether or not he's going to use his own or not. As long as it meets the same criteria, then he can choose something. But these are good examples of something that will work. So if I can get this to move. Oh, how's that? Phase one in this example is that the contractor would take out all of the medians along VFW Highway and replace them with asphalt. By doing that, it will allow the next phase where they will take, the plan is to have 2 lanes of traffic in both directions at all times. So once the islands have been removed and asphalt's been put in its place, they'll take all 4 lanes of traffic and move it closer to the river. And by doing that, they'll be able to work on the north side of the intersection and do all of the work they need to do there.
Can I stop you there and ask you a question? What happens to the Veterans Monument that's in the...
Very good. The Veterans Monument's going to be removed by the contractor, stored in a safe location, whether it's a location of his location or something that's provided by the city. I've already hooked up the Mass DOT engineer with Tom Belgard. He seemed like the logical person, so they're going to work out what will happen with that.
Okay.
So, but the monument will come out, and then it will go back in a different location in the end, and we'll show you that after. So this would be Phase 2. All the traffic would be on the south side of the intersection, and the work would be going on the north side. You can see in this scenario, at this point, Lakeview still exists along the CVS parking lot. Phase 3 would be, now they move the traffic to the north side, they work on the south side, and they begin working on the little area that will be a park, where the Lakeview Street is at the moment. And then Phase 4 is pretty much the completion. Now they are going to be, the traffic is going to be in pretty much its future location. They'll be rebuilding the future islands, and they will fill in this section of Lakeview. And at that point, the only way into Lakeview will be along VFW and turning in there. So that's what they're planning on for a traffic flow for during the length of the construction.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on the 4 phases? Will you be able to take a left-hand turn out of the CVS parking lot onto Lakeview, or will you have to go right? You can. You will be able to. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? You want to continue?
Some other notes from the project plans. Mass DOT has promised that they will always have at least one lane of traffic open at all times. 2 lanes will be open at all times before 9 a.m. and after 3. So during the commuter hours, there will always be, if they need to do any shutdowns or interfere with any of the lanes, it will only be off hours. Any work that impacts any of the abutters will be notified at least 24 hours in advance. And regardless of where they're working on the sidewalk or the street, but pedestrians will always have approved accommodations to get through the project site. Traffic flow I showed you. We talked about that. I mentioned at the beginning that the gas company is doing their work now. Through this project, Mass DOT is doing some drainage work. Throughout the entire length of VFW Highway, their storm drains have been connected into our city sewer. And with the CSO work that we've been doing throughout the city, we've been after them to disconnect theirs. So in this area, this is happening through this project. There are a couple of other Mass DOT projects, so piece by piece, they are removing their stormwater from our system. And there's some water, and water work is going to be done as well. And my last page was about the monument. And we talked about it all. So that's what I have for my notes. Nick, do you have anything to add?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation.
Okay.
At this point, if there are no other questions, I'd like to open it up to the public. Those of you that might want to make a statement or comment, come to the podium and please state your name. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Michael Harrington, and I live on 201 Christian Street in Lowell. I wrote down a few notes as you were going through here. One of the notes I wrote down is that most of the work being done now in preliminary to this project is being done at night. But from what I just heard, that this construction project at Bridge Street is going to be normal 8 to 4:30 type
7 to
time frame?
7 to 3:30 more likely.
As I came over here this evening, I came under the rotary coming in toward the Bridge Street 110 corridor. And as I was under the rotary, there's a nice sign there that says construction 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. Well, that's the only sign that's available for anybody coming into that Bridge Street corridor. I want to say that 75% of the people that come into that Bridge Street corridor are coming off the top of that rotary and are not going to see that sign at all. So I'm hoping that when the project starts, that signs are put further up on the westbound side of 110 so that people can see it, as they're coming down that rotary.
The Mass DOT projects is quite extensive with the signage that they'll be installing. It's on a page from the plans that we didn't bring here tonight, but they have quite a few. That message board that you've seen is from National Grid. I'll talk to them tomorrow and ask them to add NG and to move the location.
Even if they just move it,
Yeah.
it would be fantastic. Don't get me wrong, I think this project is well overdue to have something done to that intersection. It looks like at the end, it's going to be fantastic, but this is one of those projects, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Anytime a construction project starts, continues through a major intersection, people get fed up with the traffic during the construction project, and they're going to seek alternative routes. Right now, one of the routes that a lot of people are using in lieu of Bridge Street is up and over Christian Hill, feeding down onto First Street and then onto 110. I've been told that it gets so bad some mornings that traffic is backed from the Rotary all the way back almost to the Dracut line, and that there's become like an unwritten rule of driving that when it's that heavy, it's an automatic, you'll alternate. The highway gets one, and coming off First Street gets one, and it keeps going. Now, is there anything that's been built into this project to help out the neighborhoods, not only the Christian Hill side, but I'm imagining it's going to be the same thing down on the Aiken Street side? Either additional police to monitor traffic or help move it along through these neighborhoods, or are we stuck at what we got? I just want to bring that up so that, you can be considered. Councilor Leahy mentioned about that double lane coming down off of the Rotary at 110. And I know it's outside of the construction zone. But years ago, and according to this diagram here, when you got to the, I want to say 3/4 of the way down that ramp, there was a little exit off that the neighborhood knew that you took onto Reed Street. And a lot of people would use that to eliminate going to the light. I'm wondering if just during the construction project, to help out the traffic in that area, just in the evening, maybe from like 4 to 6, some kind of a gate be put in, open it up, let the traffic go up, some of the traffic go up that Reed Street. I know that people on Reed Street are going to get upset, but at least by going up Reed Street, you're going to hit 6th and you're going to be brought out at a light. Maybe it alleviates, some of the problem. Maybe it doesn't. And I don't know if this is the right place to ask or not, but I'll ask. Can someone from either the state or the city come to a neighborhood meeting in Centerville and give this another presentation to the neighborhood? I know that you said the project starts in September. The next 2 neighborhood meetings are, one is scheduled for August 17th and September 21st? The third Monday. I think it would be a great benefit, and then, we can put some signs up to make sure that, everybody sees it and knows what's happening.
I can attend that meeting.
Someone from the state can definitely go. Just reach out to Lisa's department, and then they'll reach out to me, and I'll probably be able to attend, or if it makes more sense to have the resident engineer who will be on site during construction, he can attend.
No, I think this presentation that you've made this evening
Okay.
is certainly adequate.
Yep. I didn't know, sometimes people would want the person who's going to be on site during construction as well, in case you wanted to know who to contact during the construction phases. So we can make sure to have maybe both
contact the
of them.
city.
Well, we can make sure to probably have 2 people just reach out to the city engineer's office, and then she'll just reach out to the state, and we'll make sure to have a representative for your meeting.
Okay.
We'll check everyone's calendar and make sure it's someone's there.
Okay, fine, appreciate it. Again, thank you very much. It's a long overdue project, and it's going to really be helpful to Centerville, 110, and downtown. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Harrington. Anyone else like to? Yes.
Sorry, I had one
That's
thing to
okay.
mention, is that there are traffic police included as part of the cost of the project. Obviously, it's meant more for the actual main project, and any enforcement that would be on city roads would have to probably be the city police,
Okay,
just to let everyone
Okay.
understand that.
thank you. Ma'am? Good evening.
Hi, my name's Sarah White, and I live at 27 Jackson Street. I I'd like to shift the attention a little bit, and it may seem a little unfair, but when I spoke to you about, are you going to be discussing the Lower Overpass at all? And you said they're in the middle of developing, is that right? So my interest is primarily in the Lowell Overpass, Overpass, especially as it affects all the pedestrians around the area. So this is a wonderful presentation, and I really appreciate all your effort in bringing this information to the public. I want to say just two things about the Lord Overpass and walkability, and that is there are a lot of organizations on the west side of Dutton Street that really suffer from not having access to the east side of Dutton Street. I represent Western Avenue Studios in particular, and for example, in April I came before the City Council and brought a petition from 345 people asking for access. Originally, we have been thinking about access across the railroad tracks. I understand that that seems prohibitive financially. I would like to press the case in terms of finding other solutions. 49% of those 345 people who attended Western Avenue on that one day out of the year were visitors. Out of the zip code visitors, I went through and counted them all. So it sort of represents that there are 170 people who can't get from here to there, who would shop, who would go to restaurants, who would, walk through Lowell and increase its landmark, its historic aspects that we just can't take advantage of because of the location. I also am familiar with the Textile Museum, the American History Textile Museum. They just recently had a free Friday and had 500 people coming, families. Once again, they can't get to anywhere without a car, and then it presents problems with parking. So I just wanted to bring those numbers to your attention in advance of the next presentation, because it represents a lot of people who are forced into driving, or it represents people who are crossing the railroad tracks illegally, and that represents a danger in its own right. Speaking of the railroad tracks, I know particularly that there's this blind corner there that the railroad has to travel, and that's part of the concern. I certainly want this to be a safe issue, but I also want to remind you that the train is going at about, a mile an hour at that point because of the blind corner. So there's a lot of slowing down that happens for that train. And that may weigh into any sort of additional thinking as far as it's already slowing down. It's already going very, in anticipation of unknown people on the track. So just for you to know that there are lots of people who are interested in walkability, lots of people who would like to get across Dutton in different ways. And I support the intelligence of this group for coming up with different solutions. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Manager Murphy?
Yes, actually, Councilor Belanger has a motion on tonight's agenda to give an update on the lot overpass improvements. So we'll be bringing forward a presentation similar to this in the near future. Also, as far as the train tracks, I've walked those train tracks myself recently, and we've reached out to not only the MBTA, but the train, Pan Am, I believe, is the train that owns it, to see if we can accommodate some type of walkway there. So we are working on both of those issues.
Thank you. Anne Marie, good evening.
My name is Anne Marie Page. I reside at 26 Fremont Street in Lowell, and I sit on the board of the Centerville Neighborhood Action Group, as does Mr. Harrington. And you're going to come to Centerville. In the state of Massachusetts, before you get your license, you should have to write the definition of merge and yield 300 times on a piece of paper, especially if you're going to come to Bridge Street. I want to thank Lisa. She's been communicating back and forth with us and her helpers here. And very good presentation. You know, basic Sesame Street stuff, you know, we can do this. We don't have to be engineers. So it came out very good. It was really very good. And I like the way you're going to cut that island to get to Lakeview Avenue. I was trying to figure out how you're going to get those 2 lanes coming out, and then you take one or what. So that works out very well. And where's my other little note? Oh, we lost one. Okay, parking. You said 3 lanes coming in Bridge from New Hampshire. All right, so you're coming from New Hampshire, coming in Bridge, you're heading for the river. 3 lanes, 2 will go left, 1 will go straight. I'm assuming that means you're going to back up, no parking on that left side, please?
We didn't change the parking as a result
Sorry,
of...
ma'am, I can't hear you.
We didn't change the parking as a result of this design, so any parking changes will be because of the city. So existing parking was, I think, did we lose 1 spot maybe? Or maybe none.
Technically, no.
I think technically we didn't lose any. It might have just been unenforced in the past, but we didn't eliminate any parking for this.
Well, from what we understand, you're going to build it and fix it, and we're going to tell you where to park. But it's just something I want to make sure somebody has a note.
Yep, I think that came up at previous public meetings, that
Right.
people were very concerned about the business owners down at that end, were concerned about losing any spaces, so the design did not eliminate any spaces.
It's not bad going out. If you're at the river and you're heading for New Hampshire and they park on the right, it's not as bad. But if you're coming in and they're parked on the left, pack a lunch. You're going to be there a while.
Yep, and as I said before, the enforcement for any illegal parking will have to be handled by the city. So, parking has not changed.
And let me see where I am here. Too many notes. Okay, we really would like to make sure that when we get ready to start up on this, we do have extra police over there, you know, directing, don't go here, or whatever, because not everybody will be having a smiley face on, so we really need a little police help. And on the Hunts Fall ramp coming down, I remember when it was 2, and you can come down, but when they get to the merge, you have a guy coming underneath, you're coming down, and you have the one on the right that was hoping he could squeeze Guy Gilbickies and get right around the corner. And it didn't have to work. But I thought they cut that so they had an emergency lane because it was so packed. Going up that ramp, right, from the other side over near the river, you can squeeze 3 cars side by side. But coming down the ramp, you can't. And I think that's why they cut off the line, so you could get an ambulance down, a fire truck, or a police
So what
truck.
I'm going to say is that I'm not a part of the maintenance group in the District 4 office. I'm out of the Boston headquarters. But I'm going to guess that you weren't legally allowed to have all the car lanes that you're having. Maybe what the issue is, what was being done and what's legally being done is
Right.
probably the difference, and probably the paint wore off over time, and they might have repainted it, and now people are following what the
Right,
rules are.
and I mean, and that's another story for
But-
another day.
But I will bring up these comments, as I mentioned. I will bring them up with the District 4 office in Arlington and let them know some of your concerns. I don't know if it will change anything, but I'll let them know, and they can get back to you guys about, as the reasoning at least, as to why they redid the painting the way it is.
And, I mean, there is land there. They could build another lane if they had, or the world wouldn't come to an end. And that took care of that. That took care of that. Lead time looks good. Now, the monument. There's a World War II monument going to get moved. That's a big triangular garden that's there now, and you're going to cut off a piece to make your lane, which is going to work very well. That, we were told, and this is like the 3rd meeting I've been to on this thing, but we were told at the last meeting, probably about a year ago, over in the library, the monument would be moved. I can see it, good spot. And the monument was going to be either cleaned or refurbished. It's got a couple of chips on it and whatever, which is disrespectful. So that has to be fixed. We just want to make sure on that. Also, we were told, there's your monument, as you have this little setup, and we were told a little black wrought iron gate would go around. That's good with you? You remember that? Good, thank you. And I think that
These
was
plans
it.
don't show the detail of the landscape items, but those items were at.
Sorry, ma'am, I
Sorry,
didn't hear
these
you.
plans don't, the plans that Lisa's showing don't show the details of all the landscaping, but there is landscaping included in that park area, as well as the fence, because that was a comment I believe you and your husband had at the public
Yes,
hearing.
and that's what we were concerned about. Because on that big island, There's been several $100s donated and a lot of hours of work, make sure the flowers, the perennials, all that. And we want to see it look nice. We want to see a nice garden area there again.
And then also for your reference, there was a handhold that is part of the project that will have water access so that he will be able to access his hose. He'll be able to attach it right to a spigot. That will be right near the island, so he will not have to cross any traffic to use
Right,
it.
you did say that.
Yep,
That's good.
it's added as
So,
part of this project.
Everything looks good. I suggest everybody go out and buy a smiley plaque that they can stick out the window because you're going to need it. But very good plan, very good presentation. Appreciate all your hard work. We'll keep in touch and we'll get this down to them. I know you will. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Anne Marie. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Name, please.
My name is Paul Early, and I live at 476 Pine Street. And I just have a quick question. Is there any thought given to countdown for the pedestrian, a countdown signal for the pedestrians? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Any other questions and comments at this point? On behalf of the subcommittee, I'd like to thank Lisa and her team for putting the presentation on this evening and thank the public for attending. At this point, I would entertain a motion from the subcommittee to accept the report as a report of progress. So moved by Council Martin, seconded by Council Leahy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Entertain a motion to adjourn. So we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.